I would like to thank Shelly N for sending me this story that is coming out of Pennsylvania. And this has been something that's been ongoing, and it seems like now you're hearing more about it in the news every single day now. And it is dealing with these Catholic priests and their inability to not be able to keep their hands and other body parts to themselves. But to make, or should I say to add insult to injury, is how they are choosing to deal with this. Because according to this article, it says at least 7 Pennsylvania priests accused of sexual abuse were sent to Toronto area clergy rehab. So you mean to tell me that they sent them out of the establishment to another establishment to Toronto to go to rehab for clergy? I didn't even know clergy had a rehab. I thought if people went to rehab, it was universal and everybody went to one, a rehab no matter what you did. So you basically telling me to insult my intelligence that the only way to get them to stop being pedophiles, because let's be real here, that's what they are, is to send them to a clinic in hope that they probably pray this away. That is the most bunch of bullshit that I've heard in a while. But then again, look at what and who we're dealing with. This is exactly why I do not follow behind organized religion anymore. One of the main reasons, it's a few others, but this is definitely up there. Let me go ahead and read this ridiculous article because I already know it's going to be some BS. It says, in 1984, shortly after admitting to sexually molesting a 14-year-old child, Reverend John Connor of Pennsylvania was sent to a Toronto area facility that helps clergy deal with addictions, mental health issues, and sexual disorders. So now that it's being widespread that they need to go to a clinic, it's now considered a sexual disorder. Y'all keep an eye on that, because what they will start with them, they will start to transpire to others outside of the church. After 8 months of treatment at the Southdown Institute, officials there warned the church that Connor should not be put in a position where he would have the responsibility for adolescents. Yet the church seemed to ignore the advice and would later assign Connor to a parish in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, with a grade school encouraging him to educate youth. These allegations are found in more than 1,300 pages of an explosive grand jury report released Tuesday that claims hundreds of Roman Catholic priests in Pennsylvania engaged in sexual abuse since the 1940s. See, it's a history behind this madness. Of the victims, more than 1,000 were children, but that total could be thousands more. Within the report are several Canadian connections, including a few cases where abuse is said to have occurred on Canadian soil. The report says at least 7 Pennsylvania priests were sent in Southdown for treatment, but the Institute's assessment of some of these priests that they should never be near children didn't seem to deter the church from allowing them to continue to play a role in church activities. So the congregation, aka the flock, are just as bad because they're allowing these individuals who they know shouldn't be around children, especially their children, to continue to be around their children. Southdown is a rehab center for priests located about 65 kilometers north of Toronto and Holland Landing. It moved from its old location in nearby Aurora in 2013. It has a team of psychologists and psychiatrists who mostly deal with clergy suffering from issues such as alcoholism and depression. You know, for all of them to have all these issues, I'm trying to figure out why are they even in the area of being a priest. But some priests have also been treated for molesting children. See, this is nothing. This is white privilege in a nutshell. Do you think that a black pastor could ever go to a rehab clinic to cure away them being a child molester? And so the thing is, they can go to these things like this and they will most likely never, ever, ever have to register as a sex offender. They'll probably go there for a little bit, give them their little certificate, and send them on their way and call in the next person. This is a money grab here. Let's just be real here. This is a huge business right now. I wonder how much they've made over the years. The grand jury report says in Connor's case, He never went to trial because church lawyers negotiated an agreement to have his record of arrest erased if he admitted to the molestation allegation and avoided being arrested again for a year. Look at the slaps on the wrist that they are giving these individuals. Southdown assessment was that Connor acts out sexually with some preference to late adolescent males because of his problem with alcohol. My goodness. So you mean to tell me that because he has an alcohol addiction, which is bad enough, is the reason why he's having these sexual acts, as they call it, with these young kids, probably young boys? They specifically warned against giving Connor responsibility for adolescents. It says, and would not recommend any ministry that would directly put him in a position of responsibility for adolescents, such as a teaching situation. Yet the church would later give Connor assignments featuring an unrestricted ministry, the report says, with no warning to the parishioners of the church that he was an admitted child molester. The guy admitted it, but the thing is, because it's not on the books, they're not going to say that he did. It's almost like it's just him just saying it. The grand jury says a man would later claim that Thomas C. Kelly was accused of inappropriate sexual conduct with at least 5 victims who were 18 to 25-year-old males in high school or in the seminary, the report says. Kelly allegedly engaged in mutual masturbation and oral and anal sex with his victims in Odessa, Pennsylvania. I hope y'all are hearing this. And more importantly, I hope the Me Too heifers and Time's Up skanks are hearing this too. But then again, these are old white men. What do they care? In the fall of 1995, Kelly was sent to the Southdown Institute for a week-long assessment. It was determined that Kelly should have a restricted ministry that kept him away from young parishioners. Kelly was later sent back to Southdown for several months of treatment. Several months, y'all. That means that this guy had a serious goddamn problem with keeping it in his pants. Or should I say not keeping it in his pants? You know what I mean. It says during which time he reflected on his conduct while in Odessa and decided that he was not ready to quit serving God. To be honest, he was serving more of himself. Over the course of the next several years, Kelly spent most of his time as a priest in the Diocese of San Angelo, Texas. Another Reverend John Hull was admitted to Southdown following a report of sexual abuse in 1986. He underwent therapy for approximately 6 months and was later discharged. During his treatment, the report says the director of the Southdown said Hull claimed he had been sexually involved with several high school students when he was headmaster of a Catholic high school in Dayton, Pennsylvania. Southdown provided the diocese in Pittsburgh with an assessment that said Hull was a pedophile according to the grand jury, yet he would later be assigned as an educational consultant to the Secretary of Education for the diocese. He was also appointed chaplain at a hospital. The expiration of the statute of limitations prevented Hull from being arrested and charged criminally for sexual abuse of minors. Now listen to that. Statute of limitations expired. This is amazing. And to think, I almost didn't read this article. I'm glad I'm reading it because I'm learning quite a bit, and it's making me sit with every paragraph, every line, every sentence that I'm reading. The same is true for many cases documented in the grand jury report. The report also reveals details about cases where abuse is said to have occurred in Canada. One priest is alleged to have sexually assaulted 2 boys in a hotel room in Toronto while on a retreat. Another priest is alleged to have taken a trip with a boy to Canada, slept in the same bed with him, and served him alcohol. The grand jury report also mentions the police investigation in 1988 of Reverend Robert G. Walk, who was alleged to have sexually assaulted boys. During the investigation, it was alleged that other unnamed priests conducted sadomasochistic rituals on several young boys in Washington and Somerset counties, as well as in Florida and Canada. It also refers to a Pittsburgh Press newspaper article quoting a district attorney who said investigators were looking into more than 200 acts Walk allegedly committed with one of the youths in Canada, Virginia, Florida, and Ohio. This right here is, like I said, one of the main reasons why I do not go to the church anymore unless it's for weddings and funerals. But even then, you don't really hear stories like this coming out of black churches. I mean, they're few and far in between. Usually you'll find that probably someone is sleeping with someone else who's of age. You'll find some that's sleeping with a minor. But this is something that has been ongoing for years. I did not know until at this very moment after reading this article that there was an institute in Toronto that they send these priests to somehow get rehabilitated. And notice that they're only sending them there for a few months after these priests have been doing this stuff for a few years. So you mean to tell me a priest could, let's just say, for example, could have been doing this for 5 years, but you're only going to send them to that rehab center for 5 months? Do you really think that whatever can be covered in 5 months can erase what happened in the last 5 years? There's no way. It's hard for them to get rid of that itch, that urge, but that is just sick. That they even have an institute dedicated to try to get that out of the system. And talking about alcoholism and being on drugs, these priests need to be in jail, but they're not going to do that. But it doesn't surprise me not one bit, because if you look at the history of this church and, you know, the Roman Catholic Church and, you know, the Presbyterians and all of them, doing stuff like this was considered the norm. And that's exactly what they're trying to get back to. And they're trying to get there as soon as possible. But then again, that institute will probably hope that they don't, because then they'll lose business if they do. Y'all let me know what you think about this sick ass story down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. The links are down below. I'll talk to you in the next one.